John Kessinger,
Here.
Terry,
Here.
Leonard Green.
Present. We have a quorum. Thank you very much. We'll start this off with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Pretty sure everyone's had an interesting week, as we all have in some form or fashion in this wonderful 2020 of interesting events.
Do work, but I do other
That
things.
is absolutely true. We certainly have had that.
Man. All right. I will entertain a motion on the agenda.
Monica Terry, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Goran Forrest, second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the agenda as presented. We get a roll call vote, please.
Amy Blankenship,
Aye.
John Moore,
Aye.
Tom Floyd,
Aye.
Leonard Green,
Aye.
Kessinger,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Dr. Rodriguez, Superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you very much. A lot of stuff going on, as you mentioned, so we're going to get right to it. We are talking a little bit more about enrollment at this particular time. Certainly, we're not as far into school as we usually are in terms of days, but we are still well into September. So want to give just a little bit of update of where we are in enrollment. So Ms. Deanda, you want to kind of catch us up?
Yep, just to be brief, our enrollment is down compared to this time next year. You will receive the annual report at the October meeting as always. But for this year, compared to the same time last year, we are at about 86% of that rate. We are now at 3471, and last year on September 25th, we were at 4059. That really is across the board and across grades. However, we would note that there's a significant lack of enrollment or reduction in enrollment at our kindergarten years. We're not quite sure what's going on there. Meadowmere is doing great with their kindergarten. The other buildings are lower than that. We suspect it has something to do with the pandemic and students not having to start attending, at least not in kindergarten. So we're expecting that we may have a plethora of kindergartners next year, 6-year-old kindergartners, and may have to look at restructuring our staff from kindergarten to first grade, but we'll wait and see how that pans out. And glad to entertain any questions that we can answer at this time.
I'll just remind the board, obviously, being only at about 86% of what we normally are, certainly is a concern. Like she said, at kindergarten, we somewhat expected that. I've seen that across other school districts in the area as well. Some school districts that I've spoken to have seen a reduction in enrollment. Others have not. It just kind of depends. So it's not necessarily consistent amongst all the area schools, but certainly there are some things that are down for us. Just a reminder that our funding is based upon enrollment, but it's also current year and previous 2 years. So, you can have a hiccup. That's why it's there. We hope it's just a hiccup since we've had a pretty consistent enrollment over the course of the last 20 years. I do expect this just to be a hiccup, but we'll continue to monitor that, and hopefully we'll pick up kids as the year progresses as well, and be able to kind of show that it just was a hiccup at the beginning of the year, and people just still overall are concerned about the pandemic.
Did all buildings still hold kindergarten roundups? All elementary buildings?
Yes, ma'am. And we did do it a little differently this year. Certainly the pandemic again forced us to do, we had a CNI team put together some really creative things this year to really make sure that we could do anything that we could possibly do to get that up. And I think it would have been even better had we not had this, but they'll continue to look at what we do for this next year as well. And we know that it'll need to be probably even more so. And like they said, we expect an increase in kindergarten enrollment next year.
Dr. Rodriguez, are we doing any reaching out to families?
We've actually done quite a bit. One of the things that we knew that we've discovered is there were some challenges with some enrollments. I will commend many of the principals. They've been working together, and they've actually, many of their teams working in conjunction with our CNI team and Dr. King, of going out into the neighborhoods. Ms. Cordier is part of that, as well as we've heard different challenges with different apartment complexes, going into those neighborhoods, going into apartment complexes, trying to assist them with enrollment and getting them devices, getting them hotspots. I mean, anything that we have heard, we've tried to make sure that we're going out. Obviously, I put plugs in our videos. We've sent out any number of different updates via email and social media, and anything that we can to try to get the word out of making sure to get your students enrolled. I will say that number is fully enrolled. There are at least about 250 families, students that are still in the queue, that they've started the process but have not completed enrollment. So we're trying to make sure and work with those families as well, so we can get those fully on the other side of that. And again, every time we hear of a concern or a challenge, again, our teams have done a great job of going out and doing anything they can to meet that need.
Thank you.
With that, sir, the start of school obviously being a big deal. We are now, I think, on day 12 or 13. Certainly day one was a little rocky for the morning with a nationwide outage that we had, but after that, it really did pick up, and we really have been able to see some wonderful things. I know IT has been still receiving many calls and trying to work through different challenges, as well as the CNI departments through the instructional side, and any challenges with Canvas and any challenges with those pieces. But we really have seen a much higher level of engagement, and we've been really happy with that. Certainly things that we still need to do better, and it's been nice to have the time to be able to do that, especially the way our schedule has kind of worked and the way that we planned it, with Monday, Tuesday, and then a Wednesday being that day for professional development, and making sure that we are working with our teachers and administrators. So it really has been a joint effort on any number of fronts, but we've had a really good start, and we've got a long way to go, but I'm very happy with the start. And I told the administrators and all of our team how proud I am of the start that we've had, and we've got a long way to go, but certainly very, very proud of the beginning. We still have Caring for Kids. We still have community outreach. We still have the things that we need to continue moving forward with in the district. And we did have our annual Caring for Kids kickoff. It's been a wonderful start with them, and we're talking about a lot of different ways that we can be maybe more strategic with individual locations. Certainly there's some goals that have been put in place in working with cabinet and working with the leadership in the buildings. So we're excited to kind of see what we're going to be able to accomplish over the course of this school year. And but that's a huge outreach for us, and we're very proud of that partnership, and looking forward to seeing what our partners are going to be able to do to help support what we're trying to accomplish in our schools. I've left this on an update every single month, and it probably will continue to do so for a while. I think the biggest thing that I would say is that we're continuing to progress forward. I always kind of talk about the numbers, and I've tried to present what those are and kind of talk about it. Like I said, I meet with Jackson County Health Department every single month or every single week. And the conversation for the last 3 weeks have been that the numbers continue to be decreasing, which is good. They are not to the level that they would be happy with us bringing everybody back, but they certainly are pleased with the numbers continue to go down. So you see some area schools starting to bring some students back, and obviously we brought back our pre-K. And as I told the board previously, I'm extremely happy that we're going to be able to bring our kindergarten through second graders back on Monday. We will be doing that still in our hybrid approach to keep our class sizes low, but getting any of our students on our campuses, I know is going to be a welcome sight for all of our administrators and all of our teachers. I know I talked to a lot of the kindergarten teachers, and they're so excited and just cannot wait to at least have their kids back on campus, even 2 days a week. So we are already working on plans for grades 3, 4, and 5. And we'll be reaching out to those families in terms of transportation and making sure that we can get the logistics down and be ready. And hopefully I'll be informing the board in the next week or so what the plan will be in terms of bringing those grades back. And we'll continue, as long as things continue to improve, we will look at looking at middle school and part of our high school moving forward as well. So we are progressing well, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to do so. On board priorities update, I mentioned a couple of things already. Certainly the Caring for Kids updates. We're also going to be continuing moving forward, like I said, on the cultural competency, and still going to be able to be meeting with several different teams. So I talked to Shiva this week, and we're going to be meeting with my leadership team around that between now and next month's board meeting, and beginning to set our goals for this school year, and how we'll still going to be able to create these modules that we'll be delivering them maybe a little bit differently than what we had in the past. But our goal is still to make sure that we can continue moving forward, and we want to make sure that we're still presenting that information. Certainly in this particular year, with things that have gone on through this summer and continue to go on in our country, I think it's more important than ever for us to continue these conversations. So I'm very excited to be able to do that, and we'll have additional updates for you moving forward. So happy to answer any questions, but I know there are probably several questions around the curriculum side of things. And so we've kind of left that C&I update on the board agenda as well. And we'll get an update from Dr. King on some of that. But if there's anything else I can answer, I'm happy to do so. If not, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
All right.
Rodriguez, sorry, quick question.
Yeah,
And Dr. King may talk about this, but would you be able to expand a little more on how it's going to look for those teachers that do have students in person, but also still have Zoom instruction going on?
Yeah, Dr. King, I know you're going to talk about that, but if you want to touch on that briefly.
No
Oh,
problem.
we can wait. We can wait till yours.
I don't mind addressing it now, or I can wait and do it in CNI, because I can definitely expand a little further on things there. If you need me to.
If it's in your update, then we'll get it to it in your update, but we'll make sure we cover it.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we will move on to salient dates.
Yeah, so we've got a couple things right now. The MSBA conference is going on, and that's been going on virtually. But I will draw your attention, if you haven't kind of looked at that agenda, several things tomorrow. I know one of the things that I specifically have highlighted on my calendar is at 12:30 tomorrow with Dr. Robert Redfield. He is going to be speaking and talking about kind of what's going on nationally with COVID-19 and those pieces. So kind of excited to listen to what he has to say, but certainly several other things on there. Trivia night for GEF. Right now, we are still planning on that being in person. We have several conversations to have as a cabinet and with their leadership, but we may be looking at a couple different sites, and we may be looking at kind of streaming in between. It's entirely possible that that turns virtual as well, but we've got a little bit of time before we can have to make that decision. But I want to make sure and draw your attention to that, as well as the November 17th workshop, which I believe will have an HR focus this time.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, Finance Committee report. Here we had some shuffling here, so we have a guest speaker for our Finance Committee report. Uh-oh, did he freeze? He may be on pause for a minute. Can't hear
Mr.
you.
Green?
I was saying, don't we have a guest speaker for our Finance Committee report?
Ms. Cook, was Mr. Green going to deliver that?
Yes, sir.
He may have had to step away.
It looked like it froze for a minute, so maybe he's having connection issues.
Technology fun.
Oh boy. Well, we'll peruse this for
There
a
he
moment.
goes.
Is he back? Nope, not yet. All right.
Ms. Cook, you want to kind of take us through?
Absolutely. In attendance were
Ms. Moore, Mr. Green, and myself. Pretty standard meeting. We asked if there were any questions related to the items on this evening's agenda, and there were none. They did inspect the representative warrants, which includes all warrants over $15,000, the district purchasing cards, and the expense reimbursement warrants. Based on their examination, they did recommend that the warrants be approved by the Board of Education. And then we did determine that Mr. Green would present the report tonight, and we adjourned the meeting at 5:38.
I think Mr. Green's back with us. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My internet connection was really bad, so I had to move into another office. So sorry about that.
You're okay? Anything you want to add to that, sir?
No, I just apologize. She covered it all there, so my apologies.
Hey, teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you so
There you
much. Are
go.
there any questions or concerns regarding the Finance Committee report? If not, we will continue. Recapitulation of funds.
Yeah, Ms. Cook.
Financials that you have in your packet are through the month of August. On the revenue side, our revenues for the operating fund are down about $1.5 million compared to this time last year. A lot of it is due to the timing of receipts, and as you know, we did have the reduction in state aid. In the silver lining category, happy to report that, in July, we did take a reduction from the state in our state aid, but both our August and September payments have been more aligned with a normal pattern. So we see that as a good sign. And while we are optimistic and hopeful that we may gain some of the cuts we got in July, we'll have to watch and see, but at least for now, we seem to be holding our own in the monthly distribution. So that's good news for us. You'll also see that on tonight's in the gift grant report that we do have some grants that we're submitting as it relates to the COVID-19. So you'll see more of those. So that will help us fill some of the gaps that we've had with the reductions. On the expenditure side, we're actually down a little bit from this time last year, about $600,000. A lot of that's due to the time of expenditures. As you know, we did have a reduced summer school, so that reduced some expenditures, but we do have increases in salaries and benefits. So that will continue to level out and become more in line with our past expenditure patterns, but that's where we are at this time. Happy to respond to any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions, concerns regarding the recapitulation of funds? All right. Kathy, do we have any audience participation on any agenda items? Anyone registered to speak to anything?
No, Mr. President, no one, but
I think she said no.
Correct. There's nobody signed up to speak this evening.
Awesome. Well, not awesome, but thank you. Next up, consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Monica Terry, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Damon Green, I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship.
Aye.
Fred Cornforth.
Aye.
Ann Coy.
Aye.
Amy Green.
Aye.
Messenger.
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Next up, it's going to be, I guess if I get my papers here right, action agenda item.
Yeah. We will start with student focus area, sir.
Yes, please.
We're going to jump right into our C&I update. As we alluded to a little bit ago, we've kept this on the agenda as there's any number of things that continue to go on. So Dr. King, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've presented for you to read any updates we had at the C&I department, but I did want to expand on just a couple of little things that we've been up to since school has started. Now, I reminded my team that at the end of next week, we will actually be almost halfway through the first quarter of school, which is both scary and daunting to think that we're already that far into it. We have, we have both our distanced learners, who is about 44% of our families that chose to be distanced for the entire first semester. And then we have our blended or hybrid kiddos. And those students we have now broken into A days and B days. A days, you remember, will be Monday and Tuesday, and B days will be Thursday and Friday of the week. It's going to give us about, in K1-2, the most of any students we will have on any particular 2 days will be about 10. And that's going to be in rare classes. Usually it's going to be around 6 to 7 students per day, which I think will create a great deal of learning opportunity for accelerated learning, which is I'm going to kind of speak a little bit to that in Monica's question in a little bit. But I did want to talk a little bit about our distance that we are doing right now for all distance K through 12, and then also continuing with our blended students 3 on until we bring them back as well. We are utilizing Canvas. There has been some frustration on the part of parents and on the part of students as we learn a new platform. But as my C&I team is fond of saying, and I think it bears repeating, that Canvas is nothing more than a platform. It is how it is being utilized and how we are employing it that will make the difference. It would be no more than a plan book or a calendar that you would add your things, your events to. And so the platform itself is without blame, but often it magnifies some of the issues we're having as we try to link things to it, such as Seesaw, our Zoom, Play Posit, and any other links that teachers have found to help with the learning of students in the classroom in a virtual setting. So having said that, we are we have a 24-hour Canvas hotline for teachers. We also have a hotline for parents that are experiencing, usually it revolves around a technical issue. It's not necessarily Canvas. We have had many calls on how do I make sure I get the Zoom and, and those kind of things, and how to making sure that it's linked properly through there. We are working through those, and we have seen a significant reduction in the amount of calls that we get daily, which is a positive thing. Principals have continually reached out to parents who are experiencing difficulties in a proactive way, as well as our teachers are reaching out to students that we're not seeing log in every day and or not completing any assignments in the Canvas platform itself. I did talk a little bit about synchronistic and asynchronistic teaching in the update, and I want to make sure that I mention that again, because that will also go to Mrs. Terry's comment. Synchronistic is using a live classroom model, and all of our teachers right now are utilizing the live model. They, throughout the day, will hold a live Zoom where kids can come on and the teacher actually walks through a lesson as if the class were there, much like this board meeting right now, that we would say this board meeting is synchronistic teaching. We are all actively participating in it in the moment. We also then have asynchronistic teaching that is going on, which is the ability to record lessons or to provide lessons in a format that students can access on their own time or for viewing later. Our synchronistic lessons are actually recorded and then uploaded, so that if a student was unable to log in at the time the teacher was delivering the synchronistic learning, they can view it later. The teacher then also goes back and makes sure that she's connecting, he or she is connecting with the students that maybe didn't get the synchronistic learning. So as we start bringing students back, the model has been, we do both synchronistic and asynchronistic teaching in our all of our classes. That will continue in our distance classes. As we start bringing students back during the hybrid model, let's say your students are on the A days, those students will begin to see intense accelerated learning that we are in the process of providing professional development on. if you can imagine a teacher who's used to 20, 25 students in a classroom and now they have 7, the learning that can go on in those 2 days can be so intense and so intentional and so deep that we can't lose a second of it, and we cannot let ourselves be distracted from the fact that we are accelerating their learning. So while that is going on, we've got the other students who are going to receive their learning, their accelerated learning on the B days. What are they doing? Right, they are still involved in all of the asynchronistic teaching that has been going on. So they will not live Zoom in on the same days as the A and the B students are there. They're going to be developing that deeper learning through activities, through interacting with I'm trying to think of the right word I want to use here, with like the seesaw and the play pause it videos and things that our teachers have already uploaded for them. The teachers will still be checking in with those students periodically during the day, but they will no longer be part of a synchronistic teaching. It will be vitally important that the teachers keep in contact with the students, either through the chat feature, or, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Those kinds of things, but not in a full class setting. We're going to be monitoring that. Again, we are building this plane as we fly it. So we're going to be monitoring, is it working? Are we seeing a fall off in our kiddos and our B kiddos on A days, and vice versa? So how do we make sure that they are still actively engaged and actively learning without the face-to-face with the teacher on the synchronistic days? And I would be glad to entertain any more questions on that, but I will tell you that it will be, if we have to adjust as we're going, if we're seeing things that we're not particularly seeing and moving in a positive direction, we will pivot in the moment. We are going to be collecting as much data that we possibly can collect, so that we are able to then make educated decisions on how that's going to go forward. Having said that, our 3 goals, which doesn't matter if you are in a virtual setting or in a brick and mortar setting, our 3 goals will be forming authentic relationships, building community and family engagement, and using data to inform all of our instructional decisions. These are going to be crucial for all buildings, because what we're seeing now, and with building principals, we've had this discussion over and over again, we are not seeing anything new. What we are seeing is any issue and any inequity we are seeing now was actually existed in brick and mortar. It is now just with a spotlight shown on it, and it is now part of a greater entity we have to deal with, because it's now in front, it's in our face, whereas we could hide, or we could not focus on it as much before. I have an example. I had a teacher say to me, I don't know how to reach our EL students, our non-English speaking students. They're just sitting on the Zoom and they're not understanding. I'm going to need a translator to sit on all my Zooms with me. And I asked the teacher, I said, so did you have a translator in your classroom when you were instructing, when we were brick and mortar? No. I said, what were the students doing in the room? Well, they were watching. And I said, so what is different now? Are you just noticing it now? Or now there's a spotlight shown on things that we're going to take advantage of that spotlight and make ourselves better, so that when we come back brick and mortar, no one has to say, oh, they're still sitting there, I need somebody in the room. They're able to then understand that is just magnified in the fact that I couldn't see them, but they still can understand me, whether I'm brick and mortar or if I'm virtual. So that's just one example of what we are attempting and educating ourselves on, that we are not seeing anything we didn't know existed before. We're just now seeing it blatant in our face. And we are now able to then understand those true issues and deal with them in a intentional, syncretic way. We have, I'm very happy to report 80 to 95% of our students in this district are connected with technology. It may not be as as we had the, Mr. Green right there, his internet activity went down for a little bit and came back up, but he has internet access. All of our students, 95% of them are connected, and we are able to form relationships with them and also interact with their parents on it. Hotspots have been delivered by hand. Our principals have gone above and beyond. I cannot say this enough. They have really made it intentional in utilizing teachers and any support staff to go to homes, to reach out in particular, go up in the driveway. Hey, you haven't logged in. Is there something we can do to help you? Here is your computer. Here's the paperwork to sign. Rather than expecting them to come to us, we are reaching out and we are going in the neighborhoods. I like to think of it as we've renegotiated our space. Instead of students coming to us and it's contained in this building, we're renegotiating a space between home and school like never before. We are actually using the home to educate. Therefore, we have to navigate that space in a little different way, and we are taking advantage of that in a I think a pretty exciting way, and that's helping build better relationships and better community support for our schools. That we have to make sure doesn't decrease or doesn't go away when we're back brick and mortar. The partnering with parents, and true partnering with parents, I have to add, it's not partnering with parents on our terms. It's partnering with parents on both terms and making it a two-way conversation, I think is a rich part that can come out of this. So as Dr. Rodriguez reported, we are happy that our K2 kiddos or blended kiddos are coming back next week. We started with our pre-K students and this week, and it is going very, very well. The reason we are intentionally and going through this Socratically is that we're able to then problem solve, and we're able to figure out what needs to happen when we're working with a smaller group, and before we keep adding back and forth more students into the brick and mortar mix. We are testing. We have to get baseline data, and it is more important than ever that data is collected, disaggregated, and used to guide instruction. And we are, it's paramount. It's what we have to make sure it gets done for academic growth. The preliminary reports of already, which I will be able to give at you next board meeting, a full report on where we are on our baseline data, is not looking good. We knew there would be, even with the summer, there's a summer dip. But we've had an extended summer. So it's not promising the data we're coming in, but it's not unexpected. And we are going to have to use that data to accelerate the learning and create dynamic, individualized experiences for all students so we can begin tracking that progress and moving forward. The state has said we will have MAP testing and EOC testing this year. We were forgiven of it last year. We were not made to do it in the midst of the pandemic, but it is something that we need. We need to be accountable for what we are doing and what we are helping our students learn. So we will have that. We were going to have to start tracking that, and we're going to have to be prepared for that testing in the spring. I would be glad to answer any further questions that anyone might have on where we are and where we're going.
Thank you, Dr. King. Quick follow-up. So the AB Day blended learning makes total sense. How is it incorporating those students that are full virtual? Are they just separate teachers then, or are they, okay, see, that's both my kids are blended, so I don't experience that.
So we in elementary, in K5, we have explicit blended teachers and distance teachers. In starting in middle school up, in middle school we have, because there are more classes. So let's say they have 4, if an English teacher teaches 4 classes, 2 of them are distance, 2 of them are blended. And those principals have worked very well to get those schedules set. So during the day, when we bring middle school students back, the teacher will spend 2 hours synchronistically teaching with the distance children, and then 2 hours in class and keeping them all on the same pace on the curriculum guide, which will be daunting, but not undoable, not doable.
Gotcha, that makes sense. No more questions, but I wanna make a comment here because he is on this meeting, and for those board members that do not have students in the district, I want to specifically call it. He's already laughing. He knows where it's going. Dr. Smith. So if you're not on Facebook monitoring the pages that are going on, you don't see what these administrators have to put up with. I'm just being real honest. It just says what it is. There's frustration. There's also support. There is a lot more than I think probably any of these administrators ever expected to have to do and address. And having a child in this school, I mean, I just see it, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a parent. I've had my own frustrations as well. I think, you know, we all have, but I just wanted to throw out a public kudos or props or whatever word the kids are using these days to Dr. Smith with all of you here with how he's handled things, the communication, the level of involvement. You know, the first couple of days, people were really struggling, and he offered 10-minute slots. Call me directly. We'll just talk things through. And I thought that was pretty amazing. So I've commented a few things on Facebook, but again, I just wanted to publicly say thank you for what you're doing and your leadership so that everyone here that maybe not have students in the district can hear. So thank you.
And I would concur with that. I would say that it is all the administrators are working harder than ever on their, they all have their own Facebook pages, and I follow them all. And I'm telling you, that's all I have in my feed. I rarely see anybody else anymore other than, and which is great. Dr. Smith I've kind of charged him with leading the rest of our administrators in how to build community, because he does a fantastic job of that. And he has provided professional development for our other administrators. Dr. Harris did for PLCs, and Dr. Butler has done it for building authentic relationships within the building. They are all doing a great job with it, and I would concur with you. And I've got Miss Simon on here, I've got Miss Dane on here. I am blown away with their patience and their level of support that they are offering to parents in that community, because they know how important it is as well. So I appreciate you saying that, and I will let all of them know that that sentiment was expressed as well.
Yes, definitely not a slight to anyone else. Just that's.
No, I wouldn't know, but
I promise. I love you all.
No, and I'll second that as well. I mean, you know, Mr. Field is on here as well, and even during the Chiefs game, when I'm texting him a concern from a parent, you know, he's all over that and communicating with that parent the next morning, and those pieces as well. I mean, all of our administrators have done an amazing job with that, knowing that, you know, the challenge of what we're dealing with right now, and my charge to them has been to over communicate as much as we can. But I absolutely also want to make sure and give, because she won't do it herself, it's just Dr. King and her team, of the immense pressure that they've been under, you know, basically since March. And to go through all the changes and all the things, I mean, we're not perfect. And I'm the first person to continue to say that we're not perfect, but I'll also put what we've done against just about everybody else. It's been pretty fantastic. And so we're not at 100%, which is not acceptable, but we are doing a fantastic job. And Dr. King and certainly her entire team with, you know, Liz, and I know Scott's on this call as well, and they've all done, and Daniel, but they've done an amazing job and have been under immense pressure, like I said, basically since March, and just one deadline after another. So we're very, very proud of everything that's going on, but certainly a lot more work to do.
Definitely more work to do, and we take it very seriously, because it's going to be about the students, or it is about the students always, but it's about the students' achievement levels and where can we get them. And that's it's on us to make sure that professional development is provided for our teachers to take things further, whether we're virtual, blended, or hybrid, you know, whatever situation we're in, the charge remains the same. And how can we support making that happen? Any other questions I can answer?
Not necessarily a question, but a statement. And I know that school just started and all that other stuff, but I have actually worked inside the city limits for the last 15 years. My only concern is I'd be interested to see what the first set of grades come out like, because in the past, you could definitely tell when school started with kids being in the parks, out on the street and stuff like that. You can't tell it right now. And I know a lot of that has to do with how involved the parents are and stuff like that, but it'd be interesting to find out how that all works out. And trust me, I know you guys are doing what you can and doing a great job and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what how this all turns out.
Agreed.
I agree as well.
Dawn, I'll comment on that just a bit. Again, having kids in the district. So I can tell you that a lot of times, like my kids will go out and play. That's kind of their PE time, you know, is how I look at it. Yesterday, my son went out for 2 hours and played football in the afternoon, but he'd already completed all of his work. He was caught up, everything was turned in, I checked it. So there may be some of that it's just, there's a little bit less, again, they can focus, right? They're not distracted by their friends talking or anything else happening. So I know for me personally, they're getting their work done a lot sooner because they're super focused on what's going on, and then they can go out and play.
So we are collecting data on the what's completed, work completed. Feedback is being given on that, and we will be collecting. Again, it's going to go back to, I mean, you all know how it goes back to the data and how we're going to use that data to drive and make changes in the moment for students going forward. And if something's not working, it is on us to make sure that we are supporting what the data says and making changes as we go forward.
I want to make a comment as well, and that is, you know, I've been around this district for 20 plus years. Both my kids have come through, and to see the care and concern that's placed not only on the kids, but the community, that is a wonderful thing to see, to hear, and to hear how people are recognizing that. So I want to say thank you as well, because I believe in this community, I believe in this district, and I believe in the people that are surrounding it and making things happen. So just from me, thank you.
I believe in these students and I believe in these teachers, and they're not going to let up. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments? And if not, this was informational, so we will continue.
Yeah, the next item, sir, we're going to begin our school improvement plan presentations, as we've done several years, and we've kind of modified them over the course of certainly my tenure in this district. And we're going to do a little bit more of that as we've gotten a little bit more into some of the work that we've been doing and trying to become more focused. But honestly, also with Dr. King's leadership and also listening some feedback to the board and just trying to make sure that these continue to be as authentic as possible and as beneficial as possible in providing information and keeping us on track. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and I think she's got some things to share before she turns it over to some principals.
I sure do. Dr. Reese, you want to make sure I can have.
Go right ahead.
As I'm disabled. All right. Okay. What I would like to talk a little bit about is we have changed the format, I would say, of our school improvement plan, and I wanted to make sure I talked a little bit about that before. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yeah.
Try it one more time.
Okay. All of a sudden went. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have two of the building principals are here tonight, and they get to go before we have a lot of data to share. So they're actually going to be the ones to present maybe more of our change of what we're doing. But what I wanted to do is just talk it through just a little bit with you, because what you're about to see is a little different than what you have seen in the past. And those of you that are new board members, I just wanted to explain a little bit about the why and the purpose of a school improvement plan. And so really I needed to basically saying that we plan with purpose, and then we have to live with that plan. And if it is something that we create and then we put on a shelf and we never go back and look at it again, it does us no good. So what I have charged the buildings with is taking a vision, creating goals with action plans, and that needs to drive the improvement itself. I reckon it to if you were going to go on a trip and you just said, I'm going to make it to Chicago, but I had no idea how I was going to get to Chicago. I didn't look at a map. I didn't create a plan. I just went on, just started going there. I don't know that I might get there, but I may not get there. And if I'm not going to get there in the most expedient way, and I'm not going to get there in a way that's going to be a direct route A to B. So we have to know that setting goals becomes the first step in turning the invisible into visible. And thinking, and just thinking about what I just presented on our CNI update, and understanding that our goal is student achievement. But I can stand here and say our goal is student achievement, and I hope we get it. I hope when the map results come out that we are showing that improvement. And I've said this, my team gets tired of hearing me say that hope is not a strategy. Hope is not going to get me anywhere. I have to be able to be systematic and intentional in my planning. And I love this quote, on the far right here. Although goals are important and having a plan of action is vital to the success, having a goal with no plan of action is like wanting to travel to a new destination without having a map. We have to know where we're going. So I wanted to take the school improvement plan and make that the vehicle, make that the map to get us to our destination. I love this quote by James Baldwin: not everything that is faced can be changed. There are things that I want to change every single day that I can't, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. We have to understand and face our brutal facts before we can move forward with them. We have to understand the brutal fact is we don't have every student in this district achieving at a level that they can achieve at, and that's unacceptable. But if I never talk about it, if I never say that I only have 19% of my kids at reading at grade level on the 3rd grade, I'm not facing that fact, and then therefore I'm not going to do anything about it. So really it is all about understanding your brutal facts without destroying anybody's will to live, but understanding that I have to take those brutal facts and I have to do something with it. So a little background on the school improvement plans and why we have them. The purpose of the school improvement plan is to guide school improvement. It is the guide to taking problem solving and planning throughout the year, identifying and organizing strategies that will increase student achievement. So each building, each school is required to have a functioning building leadership team. We call them our BLTs. We have schools in Grandview with highly functioning BLTs, and we have some schools that are still struggling to get their BLT to a highly functioning level. And the primary function of a BLT, and the reason why it is so vital that it is a highly functioning team, is to create, monitor, and approve the school improvement plan, or the SIP. And you're going to be hearing all the building SIP plans. Here's my rationale for changing the format or the focus on the school improvement plan. Very often, as no harm or foul to anybody, but we often confuse the product with the process. And we have to delineate that and make that very clear. Sometimes SIP plans are written too quickly, and they're written in isolation. They're not ever written in conjunction with the building improvement team, and never shared with the teachers. I have gone to buildings and said, asked people about their school improvement plan. How's your SIP coming? And teachers look at me like, I don't know what you're even talking about. If we are not sharing that plan, again, how are we arriving at a destination without that clear map? A lot of times, too many assumptions are made about what will work. If I have a SMART goal that 80% of my students are going to be performing advanced and proficient on the MAP test in the spring, I'm making an assumption about what's going to get me there and what will work that's not based on research, and I haven't checked in along the way. A lot of times we try to do too many things at once. We need to focus, we need to narrow our focus. We need to do a few things very, very well, which will then create momentum for the other things. A lot of times our SIPs neglect to clarify who is going to do what, who is responsible for the goal. It would fall to the building principal. The building principal simply cannot do it all. having been a building principal for 8 years, without a highly functioning BLT, you're going to make less than half the progress you can make with a functioning BLT. A lot of times our school improvement plans don't take into consideration the change process. What does it take to change people's thinking? What does it take to change the way we do things? If we don't have understanding of that, we're never going to get the process or the people to change. A lot of times SIPs fail to address the why and the how. We talk about why we do this is for students, but I don't talk about how I'm going to actually do it. There's a missing link between the proposed action and the intended results. If I don't see the direct correlation between what I'm proposing and what I'm intending as my results, there's a fracture in the plan. And a lot of times we have vague or broad action steps that are not broken down into small enough chunks so that we can see it on a daily basis. What do I do today that's going to create change that I can then build on tomorrow? And if we don't have plans like that in place, it's hard for people to then latch onto a part of it. I always say what you do today has to have a direct effect, has to have some effect. Doesn't have to do everything, but it has to have some effect on something I can build on the next day for it. So this was the three main goals in changing the nature of school improvement planning and plans going forward. And this work is based on a lot of research, but a lot of it is a consultation relationship that Dr. Rodriguez and I have with Dr. Parrott and Dr. Pudge, the authors of the Disrupting Poverty book. It is basically know your why. And your why is completely stated and intentional. And that why can't just be about, in general or vague, I want to improve student achievement. I do this for students. It's not about just their academic improvement. It is for the students and is for the community in which I serve. And do we completely internalize that why? The second step of it is, have we implemented a responsive approach? Are we taking something that we're doing and analyzing it in the moment to make sure that the next day I can do something that's going to be in response to something I did the day before? Too often we don't respond to the change. We're not reflective in the moment to say, oh, this is happening. I need to be responsive enough in my approach to change what I'm doing or to go deeper with my approach. And then finally, we need to work with purpose, on purpose, and making sure that we are completely intentional in our planning. So these changes in the SIP process you're about to see, the goals remain the same. We're still working to improve student achievement, but the actual one-page goal SIP that you're used to seeing is now broken down into subsequent pages so that we are able to go deeper with it. So Grandview C4 School District consults directly with them, and then I get to have one-on-one consultative work with these authors. In fact, they've become treasured friends to Dr. Rodriguez and I on sometimes a weekly basis lately, instead of just on a monthly basis. And this is their latest book, Turning High Poverty Schools into High Performing Schools. And we are hoping to be the next chapter in the next book of what it means to take a school district and make it a high performing school district for the students that it serves. So this is my why. This is my why for the new look of the SIP, and this is my why for wanting to talk to you about it, is I want the school improvement plans to be alive and as vibrant as the students and the teachers in the community for which they're designed. I want these SIPs to be malleable in the moment. I want us to be able to pivot quickly and understand that what I'm doing is actually for a greater goal. I want us to use a root cause analysis. I don't want them to say our students aren't achieving. Why aren't our students achieving? Because they can't read. Why can't they read? Because they weren't read to, they don't have enough books. Why don't they have enough? I want them to go back. Building principals went back 5 whys. I said, don't just stop at the first why. You think, why does this? Why is it? Why is it? And we have to trace it back. And we may arrive at the wrong root cause, but we've broken it down to the fact that we now have something I can actually work with. I can actually create action steps for it. And if that's not working, I can be I can pivot in a moment to say, okay, that root cause wasn't it. What else could be the root cause? There's more than one. And if we only say there's one root cause for underperforming schools or underperforming students, we have failed to take into account the vastness of all students and as individuals and as a collective. Plans should be continually acting, evolving, improving, and aiming for a higher level in an incremental way. I can't do it all at once, but I can do something, and that's the plan. For our action steps, which is my next point, there should be manageable, and they should be subject to change and adjusted as needed. Here's been a missing piece. The school improvement plans will now be directly tied to the principal's growth goals. And I will be working, I will have one-on-ones with the building principals, and part of their one-on-one conversation will be, where are you in your 30, 60, 90-day plans, which I will show you shortly, that constitute our SIP plan now. Basically, this plan is now going to serve as a dashboard for all stakeholders going forward. So here is a blank template for what these will look like. And I just want you to understand the thought process that goes behind it. So there's in sections. So there's a basic 1-page section on where they have to come up with their goals. We have guiding questions. We have outcomes that we're going to be able to are measurable. We're able to put our SIP goal into a statement that's measurable. We're able to identify and utilize and address the gaps that exist. We're going to look at contributing causes for it. We're going to have all of our goal statements. We're going to be able to say what research we use to identify it, what professional learning development activities are going to support it, and how we need to funnel our resources to submit it. Here's where it changes, is every building principal has this template that they will create. And this next page is called a driver diagram. And they're to take each goal in the aim section, and they're to come up with what they feel are the primary root causes of it. And then we're going to come up with the change ideas. What is the theory of improvement that we are going to be drawing upon as a result of these root causes? And we have to identify what person is going to be responsible for it. And then we're going to look at the evidence and the goal, collecting that data that shows, have we done what we said we were going to do? I always say, what is your evidence? I feel like the student has learned this. What is your evidence that the student has learned? I feel we've grown. What is our evidence that we have done this? So often we proceed without a scintilla of evidence going forward, and we have to make sure we stop that. We have to make sure that we're producing that evidence. From that point, they have a 30-day plan. So for the month of September, what is the change idea? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to monitor it? And then they have a 60-day plan. And the 60-day plan can change based on what was accomplished in the 30-day plan. And then they have a 90-day plan. So we're basing this in 30, 60, and 90-day increments. From there, we go back to the driver diagram. We say, were we able to improve in 90 days what we said we were going to, and what's our next steps? If I'm not able to produce the evidence or produce what I need to go back and redo. What was my root cause? I was obviously on the wrong track. What do I need to do now? Rather than waiting until the end of the year when I take the MAP test and go, oh, well, shoot, we were focusing on the wrong thing the whole year. We want to make sure that, that we're not doing that. We are making sure that we are making our school improvement very transparent. I love this quote by Schmoker that I have on here. School improvement's not a mystery. We know what it takes to improve schools. It's incremental. Dramatic improvement is not only possible, but it's doable under the right conditions. And we have to make sure that we are providing the right conditions to make that happen. So having said that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I have two building principals here that are on the first to go. We're going to have Belvedere, Miss Samantha Dane, will be presenting her SIP goals, her SIP plan, and knowing that it's not finished. And we're okay with that. In fact, if it were finished, I would be upset. It is ongoing. We are learning as we're going, as we do this uncharted area of growth that we're faced now. She has shared with you her cover page, but know that the driver diagrams and the 30, 60, 90-day plans are evolving with her BLT as she goes. Any questions about the process before you begin to see the one in action? Okay. Ms. Dane, I'm going to let you unmute and take over the screen to share your plan.
We're at the end and we shouldn't be. Sorry about that. We're going to go back to the beginning. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. And I'm very excited to be presenting this plan to you. And I am happy to be in the position that I currently am. Some of you I got to see last spring in person, and those of you that didn't meet, I'm glad to meet you virtually, but hopefully I can see you in person again soon. My name is Samantha Dane. I have been in the district for about 10 years. I worked in Butcher Green as a teacher, and then I was at GMS as an instructional coach, and now Belvedere as the administrator. Grandview is an amazing district and one that I believe a lot in, and one that I've dedicated a lot of my time and services to. And I wanted to become a principal, especially in this district. In the classroom, I was able to do a lot of things. I was able to reach a lot of students, connect with a lot of families, and really bring teaching and learning into a different realm with some of the projects and problem-based learning that I did. And I really felt like I had an impact. And then I started working with the teachers around me and coaching them into different positions, and realized that I wanted to take an entire building and move it forward in order to help a larger number of students reach the achievement that I saw in my classroom. And so no better place to do that than Grandview, which is the district that I am dedicated to. But before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about the beginning of the school year. We've had a very interesting start, as you all know, and the teachers have been phenomenal in the amount of training and learning that they have gone through to take entire classrooms and put them on Canvas, and not just take what they've always done and put it online, but really to try to rethink the classroom itself. We have kindergarten teachers who are trying out flipped classrooms with 5-year-olds, which is amazing. And we've got more teachers that are willing to step outside the box and think about, what does it mean to show that a student has mastered a standard, and what does it mean to show that they understand their learning, because the typical ways of teaching haven't worked online. So they've been really great with all of their learning and their professional development so far, and they're just going to continue as we go. So it's a very different environment, and now we're moving into a new one where we're partially hybrid and partially virtual. So we're going to continue learning and growing. So all of our thought process and all of our planning this year for our SIP plan has been thinking, what are we learning from virtual? What can we keep as we come back in person eventually, really to get these goals and to move our school where we want it to be. So before I really get started, I want to give you a little taste of what virtual learning is looking like at Belvedere.
Do you think he really loved his brother? What do you guys think? Okay, so boys and girls, when you're getting on the seesaw, you're going to be showing your something special. This is my something special. And then I'm going to be talking about it by making a video. A little more. You're almost there. There, oh, there you go. There go. All right, okay, you can stop sharing your screen. That's how you do it. See you later.
Just a small taste of their virtual learning, and they're connecting with the students and building those relationships, with students they haven't met before, and they've done a phenomenal job. So at the beginning of the development of this process, I actually developed 2 leadership teams in my short time so far at Belvedere. I have an instructional leadership team and a logistical one, and I went with 2 building leadership teams for a very specific purpose. Often when you have several different goals or different things that you want to do, one of them, the team ends up inevitably focusing very hard on one of them, and some of them I'll fall behind the wayside. But the 3 goals the district is looking at, the data-driven academics, the relationship, and the community, are so vital to all parts of the student, looking at the student as a whole person as opposed to, you know, just one piece. And so with the 2 teams, I've got more teachers involved in the decision making that's happening in the building, and I have teachers that can focus on one goal or another, and we're not losing focus on what we're trying to do. So in this process, we really looked at, we didn't have a lot of data to go on to begin with, but we looked at what we had last year from the December and the fall iReady scores, from the BAS reading levels that we had for our academic goals. For the relationships, we did some activities at the beginning of the year where I asked the teachers to think about the students that they had and try to write down things that they knew about the students. And some of those activities really helped us understand that we were not connecting with all the students in the way that we wanted to. And for the community, we looked at what the perception was of Belvedere in some past surveys that we've done. So let's take a closer look at each of our goals here. The first one, the data-driven academics. Our biggest goal is to be able to have Belvedere students take their learning that they're doing in the classroom and apply it in a way that allows them to solve problems, to critically think, and to retain the information. What we're finding a lot is that the students will know it in the moment, and they may even be able to, in an exit ticket, show that they've learned it. But when we ask them again, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's the knowledge is lost. And so when we're looking at those iReady scores and that data, you know, that diagnostic is given 3 times a year. The map is once a year. And, you know, we've got students where we thought when we taught that lesson, they all had it. And then we look at that standard on a diagnostic like that, and they're below grade level. So our real focus is getting them to apply that knowledge, because we all know that if you can talk about it, if you can apply it, if you can do it, then you've truly learned it. And so we started with our team, with the instructional leadership team, and thinking about why don't our students apply it? Why don't they retain it? And in asking, like Dr. King said, those 5 whys, really bringing us down to the root causes. One of the places that we saw is that we are lacking in our PLC process, and we're saying we want the students to know these things, but we're not coming back to it. We're not trying to figure out what to do if they don't in all instances. We're not pushing them if they do, to give them more opportunities to apply and to grow in their learning. And so our step 1 for our school for the PLC process is to find out where the teachers are in what they know about the process, where they are in what they understand, and then being able to use that process to really have data to drive what we're doing in the building. And it's really easy to say, I think I know this, but if you can say, I can show I know this, and here's the data, then we have more power in moving our students forward and in understanding where they are and helping them get to what we want them to achieve. And so our focus is really that data-driven instruction, and it takes all of the subjectivity out of it. It makes it very easy to see what areas are we lacking in, and where can we improve. So our first step is just really honing in on that PLC process and making sure that everybody understands what it is, so we can move forward in looking at that data and then having that data-driven academics. Our second goal, focusing on our relationships. We want the students to have the social, emotional, and behavioral competencies that they're going to need in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, in college, in the real world, in whatever profession they decide to go in. The ability to collaborate, the ability to speak, to listen, the ability to have empathy for another person. All of you are well aware that these skills are almost more important than any academic skill we can give them, because without them being able to do that, they're not going to be able to work in a world that is amazingly collaborative and very much relies on the give and take between one person and another. So we want to be able to first build the relationship with the students, and then help them build those relationships with each other. So again, we asked why. Why is their social, emotional, behavior competencies not strong enough to have those meaningful relationships and community building within the school? And our first stop was the adults with the students. When we asked all of those whys, we got down to a bottom line of let's start working on the adult relationship with the students. We want to make sure that every student has a strong relationship with the adults in this building. So we're starting with an intentional connections tracking. This is, again, using data to make sure that we're connecting with those students. It's really easy to connect with a student that you have an interest with, but do you know that you've connected and given an opportunity to connect with every student in your classroom? And how do you know that? And so we've started a process of literally tracking what we know about students, and so we can use what we know about them to develop a relationship with them. And we're also looking at unified expectations among the staff as a beginning, so that we can help the students with their behavioral competencies because they know what to expect, and we are all on the same playing field. And these are just the first 2 steps in a long line. These are our 30-day steps in our 30, 60, 90-day plan. And overall, we want to get the building to a point where every student has a relationship with an adult, and every student is able to respectfully discuss and have discourse with other students and adults. And that's our step 1. And then when we get there, we want to move forward in their social, emotional, behavior development. So the 30, 60, 90-day plan, it doesn't end at the end of the 90 days. We started at 30, we see how it's going. Is it moving us toward our goal? If it's not, then we retweak. And if the 30-day plan went well, we move on to our 60, then our 90, and then we restart it all with the next root cause. Because if you've got 6 root causes, then all 6 of those eventually will get addressed through this plan when you're trying to get the kids to where you want them to be. And our last one is the goal 3, the community goal. And this is partnering with parents in the greater community. When we looked at Belvedere's surveys that they did for parents, the parents loved Belvedere. They really did. They thought it was a great school. They thought the teachers were great. But when we looked at the real conversations that teachers had with parents, that's where we found the disconnect. So parents would come in maybe for a family fitness night, and they would say teachers are great, but that was a superficial partnering that we were doing. We weren't bringing them in and really having those conversations with them of how we could work together to fully support the students. And this virtual environment is honestly a blessing in that sense, because this forces the staff and the parents to work together, and it really makes that connection and that training or that connection stronger between the two. And at the beginning of the year, we had some training for the teachers on how to develop that relationship with the families, how to work with those parents, and how to work with those students virtually. So that was our step 1 that we've done. And we're moving on now to step 2. And that is, instead of sending, and I wrote this when the leadership team hadn't quite fleshed out step 2. So I'm a little farther than my PowerPoint is now, but we're moving on now to, we've connected with the parents virtually. So now it's about how do we partner with them in a very real way that actually supports the students both at home and at school. And again, it's kind of like Dr. King was talking about, that sort of coming together in a space. So it's not on our terms, and it's more thinking, how can we partner together in a way that works for your family, that works for our school, and that fully supports the students. And so that's kind of our next step, is we're looking at some more training in that area, and giving the teachers some different ideas and strategies to try to meaningfully connect with those parents. So all of this in the beginning is when I talk to this board again, I may have very different small steps that we've gone through, and different 30, 60, 90-day plans, because the idea is that we're growing, we're learning, we're changing. And this is a very real plan. It's not something that we're just going to set aside. We're going to continually look back at it and see, where are we with this particular goal, with all of our goals, as we've all decided as a leadership team and as a building that this is important enough to us that we want to continue focusing on it. And we really think that this is going to bring the students the success that we want for them. I mean, because really in the end, we all want to foster independence, critical thinking, creativity, create a diverse community of learners that are prepared for the world ahead of them, because it's a very different world than what we've had in the past, and it's going to continue to change. And what we need is to build a building of learners that are able and capable to navigate that change and be successful when they're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dane, but you better stay on because they might have some questions for you.
I'm not leaving. I'm just going to stop sharing. What do you want me? I can stop sharing, right?
Stop sharing your screen there.
Okay.
And then I want you to say, I mean, I get goosebumps listening to her talk. And I know I'm kind of a geek when it comes to this kind of stuff, but she gets what we're doing. She gets this point of how we move a building and how we move people. And her end goal is a phenomenal end goal, but she's incrementally put at how she's going to be able to get and carry the families and the students and the teachers to that end goal. Knowing that every month I have to, she's accountable for me. I'm like, what have you done? Let's look at your 30, 60, 90 day plan. Where are you at in it? What's next? What are the next steps? And then that way we have this accountability talk, this navigated space between central office and the buildings, as well as navigated space between the teachers and the parents as we go. Questions for Ms. Dane?
Hi, this is Dane. Go ahead. This is Damon Grant. I have a few questions. Thanks, Ms. Dane, for going through that PowerPoint. So just question here, in recognizing that students are not retaining that information, to make those consistent gains, and also understanding just from Ms. King, what she stated about, work being accelerated, what are some specific steps that we intend to do now in this virtual environment, because work is accelerated, right? They're not able to spend as much time on any specific thing. They kind of got to move on so they don't get far behind. What are some specific steps right now that you're looking to implement to make sure that students are retaining that for the time the test comes?
So in the
And
class,
not just the exit ticket.
yeah, you're right, exactly, because not just the exit ticket, it's not going to work. So we have in the classroom, the students have a little bit more independent learning time than they would. They'll have very dedicated 2 days with the teachers, and that is the accelerated learning that they're going to have to do. Even on the Zoom, the virtual classrooms, they technically have 5 days with the teachers, but a student can't Zoom for 8 hours a day. It doesn't work. So everybody is moving forward in their standards. But what we're doing next is helping the teachers with professional development and with training in how do you give the students a project or problem-based learning so that they can take what they learned and apply it immediately. And then how do you use something like that and give those mini lessons in between to see when you're noticing that they're not understanding or getting it. Because the reality is, if I teach you something right now on the computer and I do it for you, you're going to watch me. And for about 3 minutes, you're going to think you know it. And then you're going to go back to your office and you're going to say, I have no idea what you just did. And so what we're teaching the teachers how to do is how do you show them? How do you then let them do it with you in their presence? And then how do you give them 4, 5, 6 meaningful opportunities to use what they just learned immediately, and then a week later, and then 2 weeks later. And so really what I'm focusing on now with the teachers is helping them understand how to do that. And we have some teachers in the building that are already really good at that, but we want to make sure that every teacher is really good at that. And so we're giving those students multiple opportunities. And when I say multiple opportunities, I don't mean just I'm going to give them a multiplication worksheet once a week to make sure they remember their facts. We mean multiple opportunities to actually apply the knowledge in a real world situation. And so that's something that when you say project problem-based learning, a lot of people think the trifold board at the end of your American history research project. And that's not at all what we mean. There's a very specific step-by-step process where you do a mini lesson and then they apply and then they work towards the solution, and that kind of cycle repeats. And so that's the training that we're going to move into, and so that the teachers are able to give the students the opportunities to apply that knowledge and catch them if they didn't get it the first time.
And I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna share something on a screen that goes to what Ms. Dane was just talking about. We did a professional development on objectives for accelerated learning. How do you accelerate learning? And what you're seeing now are what we shared. We gave them 6. There were 6 research-based rationale for how you accelerate learning with students incrementally and that are that we can track. And so we have shared all this is with the teachers. All the teachers saw this, and all the building principals. And the 2 that we have highlighted are the 2 that we're going to be looking for in the next 2 to 3 weeks. How are we increasing the vocabulary development, which is hands-on, ongoing, and focuses on those early identified academic skills? Here we have all these suggestions on how they're going to do it. Our building principals are going to be looking in, whether you're virtual, whether you're blended, are you doing these things? We're going to combining multisensory intake styles to lead to ultimate the learning. Are we taking into account how students learn? Rather, are we just presenting information in one way, or are we doing it in multiple ways? So all of these things we're tracking, we're going to collect data on, and then we're going to be looking at it in another 2 to 3 weeks. What do we need to do next? There are over 25 research-based strategies for how you accelerate a student's learning. We gave 6. Ms. McCracken is preparing an additional professional development on when we go into second quarter. What are another 6 ways that we can start looking to accelerate students' learning, and how are we going to track that going forward? So it is systematically thought of how we're going to make sure we get this done.
Okay, thanks for expanding on that question. So in terms of the tool of just evaluating that, in collecting the data, is that going to be through Canvas or the children's scores, or how are you going to, understand where you're going to get that data from to make those assessments?
Yeah. Sorry, we have to move past just assessing kids and a paper pencil test. We have to have a proficiency skills. What does being proficient at this standard look like? And so that we're developing proficiency skills for it. And I know we need to move along with these things, but and I get geeked out on this kind of stuff too. So if I were baking a cake, I would need to know, what does it look like to have a cake baked and decorated that meets a certain proficiency level? So if it comes out flat, I have to do something about it. If it comes out this way, I have to do something about it. What does it look like at a level of proficiency? We have developed that for each of our standards so that teachers and principals can look at that and go, are they meeting that proficiency level? And it's not just a paper pencil test. We are going to be looking for multiple ways that we're going to collect this data from our students. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. You and I can talk later.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions for Ms. Dane?
No questions, but I just want to say thank you. I think you presented that very, very well, very confidently. And I think it gives us a really good idea of what your vision is. And I can't wait to see how it's carried out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next we have Mr. Fielder, and Mr. Fielder is principal, as you all know, at Meadowmere, and he's been there for, 5 years, 6 years now, Mr. Fielder?
This is my 6th year, yes.
6 years. So he's going to present his SIP based on the same 3 goals that Ms. Dane presented on. So Mr. Fielder, take it away.
All right. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen okay there. You're going to notice pretty quick that one of the things that makes our administrative team across the district really, really good is that we each have different styles. So I'm going to be kind of presenting this maybe just a little bit differently than Ms. Dane did. I always like to start off my presentation by talking just a little bit about what my building looks like this year. This year, we're sitting at just a little bit over 360 students, which is down about 50 students from where we started out last year. Our school has actually been shrinking a little bit every year. Our last really, really large class is our 5th grade class. But the good thing that I can tell you is that we, in terms of enrollment is concerned, we have 6 students left that we are in the process of getting completely enrolled. Everybody else that we expected to come is enrolled, which is really great. And as was mentioned earlier, our kindergarten is right where we want it to be. We're at about 54 students in kindergarten, which is a great number. And I think that our kindergarten enrollments really did, our kindergarten assessment and that sort of thing, when we were looking at how the students were, where they were and how they were prepared for kindergarten, really helped us to get people to get their students to our school. So I think Kindergarten Roundup was a great success, even though we didn't get to do it in the spring like we wanted to. But it was a success for us. In our building, we're sitting at about 51% of our students are African American, about 21% are Caucasian, and about 27% are Hispanic. So our Hispanic population continues to grow just a little bit every single year. And so the diversity in our building is really strong and leads to some really great experiences for our students as they work together. So as far as our improvement focus is concerned, as Samantha mentioned, we didn't have a tremendous amount of data to look at for this year. So what we wanted to do is kind of look at where we were in the spring and what did that tell us that we needed to work on for this school year. We had a lot of the same problems that a lot of the other buildings had in terms of keeping our students and families engaged. And we wanted to look at how do we solve the problems of instruction on the fly. And so we came up with our 3 goals, which are roughly the same across the district, but we want to build strong relationships with all students in the building so that every single student has a relationship with at least one adult beyond academics. I mean, we want to have that good academic relationship, but we also want students to know that we care for them and that we're interested in what their lives are all about. The second one is to develop a strong school community for all students and families so they feel a part of Meadowmere. If we can build that great community and identity, that goes a long ways towards getting our students and families connected to the point that we won't lose them in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th month of this school year. And finally, we want to develop high functioning PLCs in every grade level so that we can be a nimble instructional unit, meeting the difficulties and challenges of this school year and being able to adjust to what we see based upon our data moving forward. So let's start with goal number 1. Our first goal, of course, is to build quality relationships with all students. And so in terms of our driver diagrams that we used to determine what we were going to do, we looked at some root causes as to why we need to build these strong quality relationships. So from the root causes, we were able to create some strategies, but I want to give you the primary root cause for each one of these things. So for instance, we found that students and families feel isolated by the lack of in-person instruction and in-person communication with teachers. And so one of the things we wanted them to do is we wanted the teachers to make sure that they knew that the families and the students knew that they cared about them from the get-go. So we made it our goal to have every teacher communicate with every one of their students, either in person right at their households or by phone before we ever got started, so that they knew that we cared and we wanted them there. One of the ways that we knew this was working was that we had a very high percentage of students who picked up our devices right away and really got started in getting into Canvas and on Clever. We had families communicate with the school because they couldn't get in because the district had not yet even allowed them to get into Canvas. So we knew that we were getting our families really connected from the get-go. One of the second root cause that I have here is that students felt isolated from their fellow students because they couldn't meet with them in person and on a daily basis. To help kind of solve that, we wanted to make sure that built into our daily schedule, we're having daily Zoom morning meetings every day with a social emotional focus. We started this last year in person, and we found that it was very effective. We spent about 10 to 20 minutes every morning talking as a group, as a class, about things that are affecting the students. Obviously, with COVID and all of the unrest that we have across our society, there's a lot of important things that our students are dealing with, and they need to have that opportunity to talk some of those things out. And so our teachers who got some experience last year doing this are leading those meetings this year. And that really builds that tight relationship between all the students in the classrooms. Whether it's on Zoom or when we get going with the in-person stuff, it's still going to happen in person because we need those kids to really work together and communicate and solve problems and help each other deal with each other's problems. Another thing we want to make sure that we're doing is we're keeping track of communications with our students. One of the things that Dr. Budge and Parrott talk about is the fact that high performing schools keep track of data on all sorts of different things. And so one of the things we're going to have our teachers do is they're going to fill out a personal contact spreadsheet related to every one of their students on a 2-week basis. I'm going to be monitoring that information and making sure that teachers are in fact having those conversations with students beyond academics, as I said, because as you guys all know, in order for students to learn, they need to know that they're cared for first, and their teachers have to show them that. So we really need to build those relationships that way. And we also noted something about parents. Parents oftentimes feel that they can't communicate and contact with the teachers effectively. And so we wanted to build a way for them to feel like they are an important piece of this. And one of the ways that we did that is by, we're having the teachers create Calendly accounts. Calendly is an app that helps you very simply connect with parents, creating an easy way for them to make appointments with you. Now, obviously, at this point, we're all virtual. And what Calendly does is it syncs with their Google Calendar, and it basically provides parents with the available space. So for instance, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to do this on your screen right now. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do this, but you can set up 15-minute appointments or 30-minute appointments with parents, and it shows the parents only the spaces that are available in your calendar, and then it sets up a Zoom meeting automatically with the parent. It's a great way to be able to get parents to contact and communicate with the teachers right away. And that's a great way to build a good relationship with parents, is for them to know that you care and you want them to be communicating with you. This next slide just kind of shows you what that spreadsheet we're going to be keeping related to relationship building. We're going to have, I already have this created, but this is just the skeleton of the spreadsheet. All of the students will be listed there for each grade level. And then the teachers are going to communicate when they met with the student, how they met with the student, and the information that they learned. That's really, really important. As we move forward through the 30, 60, and 90-day periods, one of the things that we're going to do as a whole building related to the student communication is we're going to have an activity in our gymnasium where we're going to put up posters of every class with the student names, and we're going to have the teachers go around and basically provide information that they know about every single student. And we're going to find out which students are kind of falling through the cracks in terms of relationships. It's very important that we know that, so that we can then assign a staff member to fill that gap, so that we are leaving nobody behind relationally. All right, our second goal is to build community. And with Meadowmere, it's very vital that we do this. I want all of our family members to think of themselves as members of the Meadowmere community. So we're going to be working to foster pride in the school and in our learning focus. One of the things that I've tried to do since I got to Meadowmere is to change the reality of what we do. I want to make students be proud of their skills and their academic achievements. And I want everybody to know that Meadowmere is a great place to come and learn and be a part. So here's our strategies for our second goal. One of the things that we did from the get-go is we as a staff created a welcome back video where we had every single staff member be a part of that video, because one of the things that happens sometimes in schools, whether it be in an elementary school or even in a high school, is that students get to know their teacher, but they don't get to know the rest of the staff. It's very important that they know that we are all part of a big community. So we created a video. I'm going to show you just little bits of that here in just a minute. We're also going to be, one of my parts in this is that we're going to be conducting grade level Zoom meetings, because I want the students to understand that it goes well beyond just your class. I want them to know that they're part of a larger group of students wanting to learn, wanting to get better at everything that they do. We're also going to be conducting school spirit weeks. And our first school spirit week is actually coming up next week. And it's the theme for the spirit week is going to be the change of seasons. And so we're going to have, kind of fun days where Both our students that are going to be in person plus our students that are going to be virtual are going to get an opportunity to dress up according to the daily theme. So for instance, the first day is going to be Four Seasons Day. And the students are going to get to dress up according to whatever season they want to pick. So obviously we're just coming out of summer. And so some of them will dress up in summer fatigue. And then some of them are going to dress up like it's winter. And we're going to have the teachers take pictures, whether it be on Zoom or in person. We're going to take pictures and we're going to basically create a visual representation of this day and everybody who participated so that everybody can enjoy that and be a part of it. One of the other things we want to do is make sure that all the teachers create something in common so that our families know how to communicate with us. And so all of our teachers are going to be creating virtual offices where families can go, whether it be in Canvas or on the school webpage, and each of the teachers will have the same type of a virtual office where they can see places where they can click for information. So they'll have a link to their Calendly calendar. They'll have a place where they can simply email the teacher. We want to create some commonality so that the families begin to realize that we are part of a whole school community. So we created this welcome video, and this is, I want to show you just a little bit of this. Every teacher and I think almost every single staff member is in this video. It's over 7 minutes long, so I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I wanted to just give you a taste of this. Hi, Meadowmere students and families. This is Stephen Fielder, principal at Meadowmere. We are excited to get this new year of learning started. There's going to be challenges, but we're going to get through them together.
Hey, Meadowmere kiddos, it's Miss Wicked. I miss you so much, and I hope that you had a wonderful summer. We hope that you have a great start to the 2021 school year virtually, and we hope to see you soon. Have a great day.
Hola, niños. Hi, Meadowmere. It's Miss Patty. Welcome back to the 2021 school year.
Good morning, Meadowmere. My name is Nurse Mindy, and I want to welcome everybody back to the school year. I can't wait to meet everybody.
Hello, Meadowmere Elementary. It's Miss Mercy, their school psychologist. Welcome to the school year.
Welcome back, families and students. I'm Miss Brandy, the occupational therapist at Meadowmere, and I can't wait to see your smiling faces and hopefully everyone's when it is safe to be back in person. Have a great first week.
I'm in freeze with you and do some fun activities. Let's get this year started.
Welcome back, Meadowmere families. We've missed.
So as you can see, everybody got a chance to participate in that and kind of present a few nice words for our families and our students and show that we really do want them to get back with us as soon as possible. And obviously at the point that we created this video, we were not exactly sure when we were going to start getting students back. So it is wonderful that we get the opportunity to start seeing our K-2 students next week. Goal number 3 is probably the most important of the 3 goals for my building specifically. We need to make sure that we have high functioning PLCs in every grade level to support the teaching and learning focus of our building. We've struggled in this area for the last couple of years, and we need to really make gains in this. So I have 5 strategies for this 3rd goal that I want to present to you. The first one is that I, as the principal, had to present the vision for what this highly functioning PLC would look like to our staff. And I did this before the school year began so that they knew that this is an area that we were going to be focusing on from the get-go. I also wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time during the week to work as PLCs. And so in my schedule, whether it was the virtual or the blended schedule coming up, I created opportunities for those PLCs to meet regularly. So we're going to be meeting on Tuesdays as well as collaborating together on Thursdays. It is so very important and vital that we do this so that, as I said, we can tackle the issues that present themselves to us moving forward so that we can make sure that we're not sitting back and we're actually working to tackle that and make sure that our students are successful. I also wanted to make sure that our BLT members, the building leadership team members in each grade level, are the ones facilitating the PLC meetings. I'm going to be working along with my instructional coach as consultants in those meetings. So obviously I'll be coaching them and making sure that they know what they need to be doing. Dr. King is also helping me work with my BLT to get us to the point that we are a highly functioning BLT as well. Our focus for the PLC meetings is that we're going to be focusing on professional learning in general, data consults and student work analysis, and instructional practice. If we focus every single meeting on these three areas, we will be able to tackle issues proactively and make sure that we are making our instructional focus the key focal point for the building. I'm also, as the principal, going to be providing data on my weekly building virtual and in-person walkthroughs. I want to make sure that what we decide to do in the PLCs is being followed through with. That if we have something that we say that every teacher needs to do in the coming weeks, that they're actually doing that. And so I'll be bringing back the data to make sure that we know whether we need to hit something again or whether we've successfully changed instruction in the building. So those are the 5 major strategies that I have in place right now. Well, obviously with our 30, 60, 90 day process, what we'll need to do is we'll need to check and make sure that everything is working according to plan. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to be taking a PLC self-evaluation every several weeks to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. And that evaluation has us basically rate ourselves on how we're doing, for instance, in terms of our overall goals, how we're doing in terms of our communication, our interventions, and our progress monitoring. So we're going to be basically grading ourselves throughout the course of the year and making adjustments as necessary. So if we're failing in an area, we're not going to sit back and just allow that to continue. We're going to change things around so that our PLC structure is humming along like a fine-tuned machine. So those are the 3 major areas we're going to be working on, whether it be building quality relationships for all students, or building a great school community that we can all be proud of, or monitoring the teaching and learning in our building to the point that we are creating better teaching and learning opportunities throughout the course of this very challenging school year.
Any questions for Mr. Fielder?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. You mentioned early on in the presentation about giving the kids time to talk and share. I think that is so huge. Considering the times that we're going through, the kids hear what's going on, they hear from parents and family members and all different types of media sources, and to be able to have them have an outlet in a place where they're going to spend quite a bit of time, I think that is huge. And I applaud what you're doing and look forward to seeing the actual results of how all this comes together, because I think in the past, many times we didn't give our kids credit for being up to speed on some of the daily things that go on and how it truly affects them. So by addressing that, I think we're hitting in on some key stuff, and you should see some huge gains and responses to that. So thank you.
Thank you. And last year, when we started these meetings with the classes, we saw great benefits in areas that we had hoped we'd see benefits with. And one of those was with how the students behave and communicate and interact with one another in class. Obviously, our 3rd through 5th graders and a lot of our K through 2 students are not going to be together right away, but hopefully they'll get together in class, in person. And so there will be added benefits from these conversations that they're having. They're going to be a part of a class community that ultimately will work better and together as they move into the in-person blended learning.
Like I said, I can't speak enough on that, because where I work, our collaboration, that's it. We're in team rooms. Right now we're working from home, but that is so huge. And I think it will hit on, like I said, from discipline to learning, the whole 9 yards. So thank you. Did we have any other comments or questions?
I have one. Thank you, Mr. Fielder. First, I'll echo what Leonard said. I mean, social emotional has been my thing from the beginning. It's so important. So I'm glad to see there's a big part of that in your plan. What do you see as the biggest challenge to your plan, and what strategies do you have you already come up with to overcome those challenges?
I think probably one of the biggest challenges that we have just with this school year in general is keeping our students and families tied to the school. And so those first two goals really kind of start to combat that, but there's some things that we're going to have to add in as we get into 60 and 90 days with those first two goals. One of them, the teachers in my building really love to do home visits. COVID home visits are a little bit different than normal, but we're going to have to get out into the community. And, so if we have students who are struggling to get their work done, or maybe they're still struggling to kind of organize their day in such a way that they can do what they need to do, that may require that myself or maybe our counselor and the teacher go over to a household and kind of help with that. We call those front yard visits, but we really need to make sure that they know that we're not like miles away. We're right there, and we need to get right in their world so that we can help them do what they need to do. One of the things that has been really beneficial so far is we've been able to troubleshoot a lot of the technical issues that some of our families have had. So we invite them to come up to the front of our school. And I don't know, I'm not some kind of technological genius, but I do know a thing or two about computers. And so I've been able to work with those families to get some of those technical issues solved. And they really appreciate that because they know that they're not in this alone. They know that we're going to try to get rid of all the obstacles to their learning that we can. So we need to really get into their world and make sure that they know that Meadowmere and Grandview C4 is in this with them, partnering with the parents, because I know that one of the things that a lot of parents struggle with is they feel like that they've got to do it all themselves, and that's just not the case. We have to help them with that, and I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. But as I said, as we move into the 60 and 90 day realm, there's going to be some issues, and we've got to tackle them head on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for allowing us to present our school improvement plans, and we look forward to updating you on their 30, 60, 90-day progress.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, that's all of that area. And we do have several other items on the agenda, but might I suggest maybe we take a break?
You beat me to it. I suggested as well. So I suggest that we take all right, last time we did, I think 8 minutes. Although with all that's going on, I'm gonna take a 10-minute bio break and we just kind of get ourselves together and come back ready to roll through. So it is 8:17. So basically 8:27. And we'll see everyone back. Thank you. And just remember, just because your video's off, you're still not muted.
We're unmuted now. We were muted earlier while our reports were going on. And so now we're unmuted. Okay. Here we go.
All right. Do we have everyone back yet? I can see the various pictures and people popping up. Yes. All right. Do we have any other questions or concerns on that last item? If not, it was informational, so we can move on to the next unless there were more comments, concerns, questions. I see heads nodding. People are awake. That's awesome. All right. We will move on to the next one.
And no items submitted, sir, for category 2 workplace excellence.
Okay. So that means we'll move on down to resource stewardship and organizational efficiency. Budget amendment.
Yeah, we have a few items here, and certainly a regular type item in terms of a budget amendment. So, Ms. Cook.
Yes, we do have a budget amendment for your consideration this evening. There's several attachments, but we'll focus our attention on attachment 2, which has the kind of the meat of the amendments that we are recommending. And so they're broken up into 2 different categories. The first is related to operating transfers and then some expenditure adjustments. On the operating transfers, those are just for items that we have funded in our operating fund, but when we make the expenditure, we need to do that out of our capital projects fund, so we need to move that money over. That's for our buses, for some food service equipment, and some equipment that's within our title grant. So you'll see a negative amount in the operating funds, a positive amount in capital projects funds. which also, when you look down at the expenditure adjustments, basically on the expenditure side, we'll move that budget money from the operating funds over to the capital project funds. We also need to increase our debt service fund expenditures. We have plenty of revenue to support it. Just as we looked at it and updated our spreadsheet for that, we needed to add some money to that. And then in the capital projects, I did a very minimal budget when we created the initial budget back in June. We need to increase that budget again. There is dollars in the fund balance for that to support it, and that will really not be allocated out too much right now. But as we go through the year and do our planning for projects, we will need to have those funds available. The final section on that is what's considered carryover items, and those are for grants that we received last year that were not fully expended, and so we need to put those dollars back into our budget in the current year to finish those out. So pretty standard items, as Dr. Rodriguez said. We would request that you approve those, and attachment 3 would then show where we would end up with those revisions. I will say it will appear a little alarming because our fund balance would appear to be at about a little over 12%, but as we shared in the 3-year forecast, those are very conservative numbers. We do not expect to expend that much money, and we have not budgeted for a lot of the grants and support we'll get with request approval.
All right. Do we have any questions or concerns? If not, I'll.
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kessinger,
Aye.
Aye.
Green,
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, technology plan.
Yes, sir. About every 3 years, obviously, we bring to the board and we have discussions around the technology plan. As this one expired in June, typically we would have brought that maybe late spring, even early summer. We've had a few things going on, and our tech departments have had a few things going on. So we're bringing it to you now, and certainly an update, but I will tell you it's also very much tied to our current strategic plan. And so I'm going to ask Alonia Norwood to take us through part of that. And I think Scott Sizemore obviously is going to take through part of that, as we have blessed, in my opinion, to have both a informational technology side and an instructional technology side as well. So I will turn it over to Alonia, I think, is going first. So Ms. Norwood, I'll turn it over to you.
Actually, Scott is going first.
Oh, my apologies. So
yes, it's me. All right, well, good evening, everyone. Ms. Norwood and I just want to take a few minutes of your time to present a summary of the district technology plan for 2020-2023. So as Dr. Rodriguez alluded to, if you have been on the board for a while, this plan will look different from what you're used to. And that's primarily because the technology plan has always been a very distinct, different plan from the school improvement plan. And that's primarily because the state at one point required districts to have a technology plan every 3 years. They stopped that requirement several years ago, but we still feel like it's very valuable for us to have a technology plan. Another reason that it looks different is, for the past 6, 7, 8 years, school districts have been really working hard to build infrastructure and to decrease the equity gap with devices with students. And so there's been a lot of things that have been happening with technology separately from a lot of the other school operations that were going on. So if you were around 2 cycles ago, we had a tech plan that was 90 pages long, which is insane. But obviously, if you have a plan that long, it's impossible for you to implement all of those things. So, it's not really a great way to look at doing a strategic plan. But you're going to notice that this looks very much like our district comprehensive school improvement plan or strategic plan, because that's exactly what it is. And so now that schools are closing those equity gaps, and we've lowered that device ratio, we're at a 1-to-1 ratio. We have, advanced Wi-Fi, and we have all the great infrastructure that Alonia's team has put together over the years, that a lot of our technology initiatives are now embedded into a lot of the other areas of the district's improvement plan. So so it's completely aligned. The plan is completely aligned to the comprehensive improvement plan. So just to remind you on that, that there's those 5 focus areas in that plan. And we're not going to spend time going through this, but I wanted to point out a couple of areas where you're going to find in all 5 of these focus areas, you will find the technology component of the plan embedded into each of these areas. So it's no longer something that's separate, something that's done in a silo. So for example, if we look at that focus area 2, student success, we have an entire goal, which is ensure diversified learning experiences that celebrate personal growth, prepare students for college and or the workforce, and promote lifelong learning. That's a perfect example of how our technology efforts now are embedded into the overall goals, program goals and instructional goals of the district. So this is the Kaufman work, the real world learning work, and our efforts to provide kids with pathways and to give them choice. So where before our focus was on, we got to get devices into kids' hands and we have to get internet or Wi-Fi access into our buildings so our kids can have access. Now we're looking at a much more individualized approach. So, you know, this program that kids may be interested in, like our Pathways to Design program, what are the technology tools those kids are going to need? Because it's not all the same anymore. It used to be we just want kids to have the device in their hands, and we want to provide the teachers with a standard of professional development that ensures they're at this, you know, base level of technology proficiency. But now it's much more individualized. So, you know, we would provide Adobe software for our Pathways to Design students and professional development for those teachers, but we would not provide that for all of our teachers. So that's something that's very new. Another example would be in workforce excellence. So in our professional development, technology is now embedded, a seamless part of that as well. And we've talked about this over the past 2 cycles of the tech plan, that our ultimate goal was to make technology a seamless part of everything else. And so I think this is the point. We still have a lot of work to do, obviously, but we've reached that point where the technology is truly seamless. It's a part of every area. You can't go into communications or governance or, you know, community relationships. Any area of school operations, you're going to find technology embedded into that. So providing the ongoing professional development, you know, we do that now. We have, obviously, we're doing professional development through Canvas, participate in, and it was a gamified system, and it was all online. So it was, you know, not just technology professional development, but also professional development, instructional practices, and other areas as well. So that's just a couple of examples how you will see the technology embedded into the overall district plan. And then, of course,
and I before I finish, I just wanted to say that we have seen some really great dedicated staff thinking outside of the box, coming up with solutions. One of the things, if you have children in school, you've heard about the green dot on the iPad. And so what the green dot is just a tunnel, a VPN tunnel back to the district. And so for the younger kids, it gives them the same internet filtering at home as if they were at school. And so we had to do that very quick, come up with that idea very quickly and get that going to get those iPads outside of the building, get filtering ready at a high enough quality for younger children before summer school. And so it was amazing to work with everybody and to see them putting their heads together and trying to come up with a solution like that. And just seeing the teams kind of figure out how to get the number of devices that we had to get out before those deadlines, and
seeing them calling parents in the evenings to make sure their work orders are, that their issues are handled. So I've seen some extraordinary effort. And so it's been amazing. So we believe our plan is clear. It's aligned. It allows some flexibility for changing times. And of course, we believe that it meets the goals and it meets the needs of the district. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And do you have any questions for us?
And I would just close with just a couple of things before we do questions. One is, I think that as a district, we were in a really good position. Yes, it's been incredibly challenging, as it has been for every school district, but the board and the leadership of Grandview have, for the past 8 years, invested in technology for our students because they believe that it was important for them to get an education in a way that's going to prepare them for the reality of a 21st century economy. And so when it came time to scramble and we have to send home devices to every student, we didn't have to scramble nearly as hard as many districts around us did who had not been investing in the technology. I know of districts around us whose students are using iPad boxes as the case for their iPad, because basically the district got the iPad in and they basically handed it out at the same time because they were just scrambling to have to buy tons of devices to get it out. So I would just say thank you to the board and to the leadership of the district for always realizing how important that is. And then this is a struggle for me because there's a ton of really exciting stuff I would love to talk to you about on the instructional side, but it really would be rehashing the district improvement plan or the district plan. So I would just ask you to think back to the things we've talked about over the past year when it comes to real world learning and virtual school and continuing to grow our teacher capacity with technology. We're really excited about those things. And with that, we'll answer any questions that you have.
Any questions, comments, folks? If not, I'll start off. Again, me being the techie person that I am, guys, don't fall out, even though it's moved over towards the Apple side of things. I will still say you've done a wonderful job. I remember back when we first started talking about deploying equipment to each and every one and seeing the ongoing changes and the ongoing progress and seeing how it's mixing with the career readiness, the college ready, the real world learning experiences. I mean, you have to learn to adapt. We're actually teaching our kids through efforts of what we have to do, what they're going to have to be able to master. And that is the stuff that we're teaching them. They have to carry on into careers and different things that don't even exist yet. So I think this is awesome to see what you're doing, what you have done, and what you're going to do in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I
Any,
would add
go ahead.
Something very similar to what Scott said at the end. In speaking to a lot of my colleagues, the biggest challenge that many of them had is that they, as all of us, were just unprepared for many different things. But we were set up so much better than many of our other colleagues. And unfortunately, that meant that some of their students didn't get the items that they needed in a timely manner. And we just didn't have that problem. And it was predominantly because of those two individuals that just spoke to you, and getting their teams together and making sure that they were ready and being able to be as nimble as possible. Certainly, Dr. King's update, as Scott alluded to, many of the things that are in that update certainly were aligned to a lot of the components in the instructional side that her team and Scott had to come up with, and making sure that they were ready to implement. But none of that happens if we don't have the devices, we don't have them set up, ready to go, that we don't have any of those pieces. We've never given out iPads before. And so I remember that conversation that I had when we were in quarantine, and I'm out in my front yard talking to Alonia saying, hey, we need to be ready because we're going to have to give out devices to everybody next year. And her knowing that this is what we're going to have to do. So a lot of things that had to be done, but just a Herculean effort on both of their parts and their team's parts to make sure that we were ready to go. And our kids are the benefits of it. So I appreciate both of them. And I promise you, we push both of them to the limits as much as we possibly can. But they both can handle it, and they're both amazing leaders. So we appreciate both of you, and thank you. Me personally, thank you both for all your efforts and all the work that you do for the benefit of our kids.
Thank you.
Absolutely awesome. Any other comments or questions? And if not, I will entertain a motion. Not everyone at once.
It's Monica Terry. I move we approve the district technology plan for 2020 to 2023.
Dawn Boy, second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the district technology plan for 2020 to 2023. If there's no further discussion, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Going forward.
Aye.
Don Floyd,
Aye.
Damon Green,
Aye.
Don Kessinger,
Aye.
Monica Terry,
Aye.
Peter Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. The geek in me is quite happy. Next up, family and community involvement. Online registration.
We normally bring this to you. Obviously, we have this discussion. It's a little different this year. And so we're certainly excited to still give you this update, but ask Ms. Deanda to give any information before she turns it over to Ms. Cordier.
Thank you. As you may remember, that one of the first jobs I was given in the district was to transition enrollment from on-site to centralized and then online. And so we were in the last 2 years of that program. The pandemic gave us a little nudge to move forward a year more quickly than we had planned. And I will turn it over to Ms. Cordier to talk about how they did that, the things they learned, and what we will improve moving forward. I think she's out there somewhere.
We can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
Okay, very quickly, we worked on 2 different plans up until March. This was the Centralized Enrollment Committee. In March, that is when we decided that we would go ahead and move forward on to totally online registration and enrollment. We had decided that with the pandemic, this would be a very, we thought, easy way to make sure or to provide that our parents were safe, our staff was safe, but get our kids registered and enrolled. The back office we began on July 1st. We went from July 1st to August 7th, where we did the actual parents went online, did the registration. They submitted their registration. We accepted it, looked at the residency. We had 2 people back office that were working residency. Mary Rhodes was able to do immunization, and we were able to provide 65% by the time we gave the enrollment process over to the schools on the 10th of August. 65% of our students had been had submitted their registration. So we had only hoped for 50%, so we exceeded our expectations. I believe it was Dr. Rodriguez that stated that we still have a few, we're at about 100 students that have not finished all of the registration, meaning that they're needing affidavits, single family or multifamily affidavits, but we're working, residency department is working every day to get those affidavits completed. Next month, we will be coming back together to debrief on what we've learned, what we could do better. And hopefully November 1st, we will be actually sending out surveys to our parents and various stakeholders to give us feedback on what we can do better. So I'm very happy and very pleased with the work of the committee. We worked extremely hard and in my opinion, I think that we were very successful. There were a lot of comments that parents were very thankful that we had thought a little bit ahead of the game and did not have over 2,000 people at the high school, that we did everything online with registration and enrollment. So I look forward to sharing more information with you all later on next month or in November.
Thanks, Angela. I do want to just say what a great job her team did pivoting and getting these things done. And when she talks about her team, they did so much extra. They put in so many additional hours to try to make this go as smoothly as possible for the parents and then for the site. So I just want to commend her team for doing that.
Thank you.
I'd like to just add on to that. As a parent, it was so easy to enroll both my kids. It did seem like there were more questions to go through, more pages to go through. But if that means I don't have to stand, I will take all of those pages. It was very easy, and I just appreciate the efforts. And I know that a lot of my friends who are parents have all shared with me. They're very pleased with how things went. So thank you.
Ms. Damon, I echo that. It was very simple. I had 3 to enroll and the process was pretty straightforward. So I appreciate all the work there.
Yeah, I only have one to enroll, but I try to always be that individual that's up there, and when we have those lines and we have the people waiting and things, because I try to make myself at least to be a big target. But I got a lot of positive comments this year as well, and certainly we were prepared for this. Again, it nudged us that last little bit forward, which is just fine, but this definitely, we had been preparing for this for the last couple of years, and it's definitely due to turning that over. Miss Deanda is the one who started that process many years ago and getting us to here. But Ms. Cordy, I appreciate your leadership, and every single year this continues to get better and better, and your enthusiasm for the process to get better and better, and your motivation to your team is always something that I know they appreciate and everything. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I know it's been a lot of work.
Thank you.
Before you go, can I ask one question? Sorry, I just kind of thought of it because you both have mentioned, and we've heard it before, that we did this a year earlier than we had planned. So what were the things that needed to fall into place for us to be able to go ahead and do it this year versus waiting for next year?
I believe that it was more just logistically making sure that we covered in one, parents were able to provide us with the information that we needed for registration. And then also making sure that the schools were prepared for the mass of residency documents that they would be receiving, immunization with the paras, them looking and making sure that all of our kids were fully immunized. Okay.
I know what you mean. Got it. You're okay.
It's getting late. And so it was just the logistics that prevented us from trying this. But with the pandemic, very honestly, if we did it totally wrong, which the team and the committee together with us planning, we had something called the pandemic to blame it on all on, but we were successful and worked together and worked very hard. And there were a lot of compliments versus any regrets. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it just kind of proves sometimes change is hard, but change is also good.
Exactly.
All right, any other questions or comments? This is also informational, so that means we can move on to the next one.
Yes, sir. We'll go into strategic governance.
Yes,
and,
please.
We have an authorization for the redemption of bonds. And in this item, we set the stage a little bit with our planning session that we had with the board recently, but also this is something that we've done on a regular basis over the last several years, which has actually got us to this point that we're at now, that anytime we have this opportunity. So I'll ask Ms. Cook to kind of take it through us, and then we'll certainly answer any questions that we have. Ms. Cook?
As you know, we do our work with LJ Hart, and they do a great job of helping us identify opportunities to recognize savings for our taxpayers, but that also helps us align our levies for current and future needs. They do a really nice job. They always make sure that we have call features built in when we issue bonds to provide that flexibility for us. At this time, we are recommending that you authorize the redemption of $3.475 million of principal on the Series 2017 GO bonds on March 1st of 2022. The two benefits to this is it will save our taxpayers future interest savings of a little over $500,000. And additionally, as Dr. Rodriguez alluded to in our conversations in the workshop, this allows us to align our levies so that we have the flexibility we need in the future for whatever bond considerations we may have. There's some attachments there. One is the notice of call for redemption. And then just as a side note, you will also, this will also amend the agreement we have with our direct deposit agreement with the state of Missouri. We have funds intercepted from our state aid directly, which helps improve our bond rating. And so since starting in March of 22, we'd have to amend that and reduce that because we will not be paying on those bonds. So happy to respond to any questions. Otherwise, would seek approval.
All right. Any questions, concerns? And if not, we'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the redemption of 3.475 million principal amount of general obligation bond series 2017, authorizing the publication of notices of redemption as outlined in the resolution.
Same Green, I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the recommendation as presented and stated. There's no further questions. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship.
Aye.
Brett Horford.
Aye.
John Foy.
Aye.
Damon Green.
Aye.
Tom Kessinger.
Aye.
Aye.
Leonard Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next up, tax levy.
Yes, sir. So again, we had this conversation recently, and we did have our tax hearing this evening. So again, I'll ask Ms. Cook to take us through this, but we certainly are feel like we're in a good position now to set this best possible position that we can. So ask Ms. Cook to take us through the item.
Yes, we have received our final assessed valuation figures from Jackson County. Our assessed valuation did go down from 578 million to 561 million this year. Once we go through all of the calculations, as we outlined in the hearing prior to this meeting, we are recommending an operating levy of 4.3057 for the general funds, as well as $1.05 for the debt service fund, for a total tax levy rate of 5.3557 for 2020. As I said, we went through this during the tax rate hearing, but I'm certainly happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
All right. Questions, concerns? And if not, entertain a motion.
This is Monica Terry. I move we approve a tax levy rate of 4.3057 for general and teacher operating funds and 1.05 for the debt service fund for a total levy rate of 5.3557 for 2020.
Amy Green, I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the recommendation as presented as well as stated. There's no further questions. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Amy Blankenship.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
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 Monica Terry.
Aye.
Larry Green.
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, strategic plan review.
Yes, sir. For this particular item, we're going to take you through kind of year in review very quickly, but certainly have any time to answer any questions from the group. As you know, we have gone through one entire year. It seems very strange that we've already gone through a year. It seems like just the other day that we completed our strategic plan. So as we go through this, we'll actually go through every single area and kind of discuss where we are, what's kind of happened, and kind of focus on maybe a couple of the areas that people want to highlight in terms of some significant growth, but also we know that many times our eyes immediately go to some of the areas that maybe we didn't quite get to accomplish everything, as happens every single year for a variety of different reasons. So I'm going to have each of our team leads go through their particular area, and obviously I will take area 1 with strategic governance, and then we'll go through each of my team members will take one of those areas, and Ms. Cordier will be on the last area as well. So we'll kind of go through that, and we'll answer any questions after each one, and certainly any questions at the end as well. So I'm going to start off with the focus area 1 of strategic governance, and feel really very good about the overall direction of where we're headed on this particular area. And you can see the 3 goals and a variety of different action steps there. Obviously, a lot of times what happens, like I said, is your eye kind of immediately sees green and thinks that's pretty fantastic, and your eye kind of goes to the red and wants to know kind of what's going on there. So when you do look at that, what you start to find is a couple areas in there, that few of the action steps that might not have been completely done. And one of those ones would be right there, actually step number 1, talking about our wellness committee. We have an outstanding process and one that we've worked on a lot, and we've done a variety of presentations to the board around our wellness committee. One of the things we didn't do was we did not have one of our final meetings where we have our district-wide group meet, and that is in our plan. It is also in board policy. There are reasons for that, obviously, with the pandemic kind of shutting down in March, but we didn't maybe pivot fast enough to still get one of those together via Zoom. I know everyone would be understanding why we didn't accomplish that, but certainly there are things we still want to move forward and accomplish, and it was still something that we didn't. So we wanted to be certainly open and honest about that, but that process will continue. You also see annually review, update, and provide training on the district crisis plan. The crisis plan actually went through an inordinate amount of work this last year and a lot of particular pieces. We had some things scheduled though for the end of the year and some things that we were going to do on the backside that obviously we just did not quite get to. I will say on that item as well as the wellness one and a couple of things, I have told my team over the last week that we will not use this as an excuse, and there will not be any asterisks that are going to be on our strategic plan or any of our goals. So we will find ways to do things in this world that we're living in currently, and we'll still move forward. So we will continue to have wellness committee. We'll continue to have our crisis planning. We'll make sure that we have all those items in place, but still feel really good about the progress that we've made in area 1. Happy to answer any questions for that before we move into area 2 with Dr. King. Okay, Dr. King.
Okay, we also feel very, very good about some of the movement we've made toward the goals that we had set with our strategic plan under student success. We have met with the curriculum team for develop proficiency scales, identified targets. We are still working on making sure that alignment between pre-K and the rest of us is in place as it needs to be. So if you see a little bit there, we are still waiting to see about how, and again, we don't want to use the excuse of what has happened, but we were unable to use some of that data to be able to tie in with our kindergarten roundup that we had planned, and not getting all those assessments in to see if we can do some lineup with that. In addition, as you scroll down, we are looking at the reasons we don't have a lot of data talking points for you that are on our strategic plan is the fact that we didn't take the EOC last year. We didn't take the grade level expectation test or the MAP as you come to know it. We're not held to the same APR, so we're going to unable to be able to report out that we're going to be able to show increase in those areas. We're going to instead pivot and use some of our iReady and some of those things, and then knowing we have a lot of improvement that we're going to have to make going forward, and that we will have those data points to be able to report out to you in the following year. I'd be glad to entertain any questions or anything you might have on our section. Thank you.
Okay, we'll keep moving. Got area 3 with workforce excellence. Ms. DeAnda.
Thank you. The areas that I would highlight for you tonight are objective 1. That is a process that we've used in the district for years that we are very pleased and proud that we continue to use that. It has been very successful in discussions with certified groups. We also have a classified group as well to bring a competitive salary schedule and benefits to our staff, and it continues to function very well. I would point out on objective C, something that we're still developing. We did begin investigating this area. We have looked at the Phi Delta Kappa program, Educators Rising. We're going to continue to have those discussions with the high school. We hope to implement that curriculum. We're going to try to see, things are different this year. So that may be a challenge implementing it this year, but we are moving forward with that. And if you have any additional questions about area 3, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. We'll continue to move forward and go into focus area 4, which we just were discussing a few minutes ago with resource stewardship and organizational efficiency. So Ms. Cook.
So we had some areas that were really good, and we have a couple of areas where we did not meet our targets. Although I'm happy to say that where we didn't complete things, those are all in progress. We just were unable to get them done. And I've learned not to use such definitive words as complete in a given year because that kind of pins you in. So on the first one regarding the zero-based budget evaluation of the entire district, as a cabinet, we did get started on that work. Did not get it completed though, and so that is continuing, and we will continue to work through that. And it's also aligned with some of the others regarding the financial tool. So it is in progress, but it did not get completed in that time frame. So that'll be a focus for us during this current year. Likewise, the facilities improvement team, they will be, as we shared at the workshop, that group will be working extremely diligently this fall as we work to identify all of the projects and solidify that information for presentation to the board later on in the November-December time frame. Again, down in objective C, that comprehensive budget and financial communication plan, a lot of that goes back to the planning tools and then communicating that out. have worked with Shiva on some of that, but again, the completeness of it is not there, so it is still showing as an in progress activity. And on the recapitalization threshold, that is something, revising that is the easy part. The challenging part with that is working with our auditors on how we then go back and restate all of our assets that are currently on our books. And so we've started that work with our auditors, but again, that is in progress and has not been completed. What's next, Kath? On goal 2, some of the things, again, the first objective is related to our facilities staffing and objectives. Those things are in progress. A lot of the things like the energy utilization, a lot of that will be completed with our work with Johnson Controls, the performance contract that was agreed upon by the board. Likewise, the reliance on subcontracting, and the final one regarding the systematic program to reduce renewable and non-renewable sources. We have not gotten as far along with that as we would want. I would share that, and not as an excuse by any stretch, but we did have a transition in leadership in that department. Ms. Brantley came on in about September, and so in addition to trying to do all of these things, she was developing her team and learning the district, and so we'll be pushing her extremely hard to make sure that we have a lot of green dots next year. Moving on to the transportation component, many of these are completed. We were extremely proud of that. Some of this, the Wi-Fi, at first blush, we're really not sure that doing that widespread is going to be very beneficial for us, only because generally speaking, our kids aren't on the buses very long to make that a worthwhile event. We are looking at possibly getting some movable Wi-Fi's, if you will, to put on buses for when they're going on trip activities or something, or maybe some of the longer routes. But a lot of our kiddos are really on a bus a pretty short time. But we're not sure that it's going to be that feasible for most of it, but we're still looking into it. On the alert for parents, Mr. Schwartz is extremely excited. We do have the software to do that. He's working with the vendor now to get ready. He's getting ready to push that out. It's going to be pretty exciting. Students and parents will be able to look on an app and see when the bus is approaching their stop. Likewise, from an administrative standpoint, our building principals will be able to know when are all of our kiddos off of the bus and home safely at the end of the day, so that they can actually take that final start breathing a little bit and start taking the evening off. And then the acceptable downtime school buses and the improvement strategy that has gotten started, but the team also has had implemented a program regarding all of their parts inventory and redoing all of that, and that ended up taking some more time than they anticipated, so they were not able to get to that, but again, we're pushing that. On the nutrition side, the long-range plan for facilities upgrades, that is in progress. We actually have a meeting next week to talk with Drs. Butler and Harris about doing some changes at the high school and Martin City to make some improvements there. And you may recall that on the proposed list, if we had a potential bond issue, we had a pretty sizable amount for the GHS cafeteria. So still in progress, but we're moving along in that. Again, not an excuse, but this is another area where we did have Sandra Reyes, the director for nutrition. Last year was her first year, so she was coming on board, learning Grandview. And so that did certainly play a role in how much she was able to get accomplished, particularly when you toss in our little friend, the pandemic, into that, which is why when you get to some of the steps regarding increasing breakfast participation at GHS and GMS, we have some, you'll see that we have goals where we'll reach a certain level later on during the plan. The breakfast participation was one we really wanted to focus on, and so we set an annual goal. And unfortunately, you know, I think we were making some progress with that, but then in March, when the pandemic hit, we switched from our regular mode of meal delivery to the seamless summer option, which tracks things extremely different. So we will not have a way to know where we were because we weren't tracking by how many high school, middle school kiddos ate. I'm not sure if everyone can see or hear me. We kind of went dark here at the meeting site, but I'll keep talking just in case you can.
We're good.
Okay.
I think the TV went auto off.
Oh, that should be a message to us right there. So where you'll see there are a couple of goals where we had very specific, every single year we would reach a certain percentage. Unfortunately, with the transition from the regular school year lunch program to the seamless summer option, and with kiddos being out of school, we were not able to measure that and or meet that. So still going to be a goal. To be honest with you, we may have a similar challenge this year. I think it's still a good goal. I don't know that we'll need to change it. We may need to think about how we track and report on these things, because we know that the seamless summer option has been extended through December at this point, and there is a pretty big push to actually get that extended all the way through the school year. So we'll have to talk about, you know, how do we try to capture some of that information and have meaningful information to share based on a different environment. On the feasibility study for community partnerships for locally grown produce, I know Sandra has started that work, but again, it was not completed in the last year, which is the same for the final two. Again, it was her first year, so there was that transition of learning Grandview and learning her job and moving into that. And quite frankly, we have a pretty aggressive plan for this area. So I'm pleased with the progress we made. We'll be pushing to get the rest of them done. And I'm happy to respond to any questions. Don't have 20.
I don't know if mine's necessarily a question, but the other day I saw, I don't even remember what Facebook page it was, if it was Nutrition Services or the district, but had posted a picture of, oh, here's what's being, you know, given out today for FoodWise. And I was like, yeah, that actually looks really good. Like, I feel like the kids would want that. I showed it to my middle schooler and I was like, hey, you want to go up to the GMS and get some food? He's like, nah. So it's just kids, but I don't know if it's a suggestion or a question, but posting that I felt like got attention, at least for me. So, you know, are there any plans to continue to bring attention to the things that are being done from a meal delivery service? Because I noticed one of the things that you had on there was that to increase the participation at GMS and GHS. So I didn't know if there were more thoughts around how to do that.
There are a lot of thoughts along that. Yeah, I think the goal is to promote things. And when we get back to when we are in school and when we can actually have a traditional serving type thing, where she wants to get to is there will be an app where kids can order what they want for lunch, and they'll go and they'll pick it up, and you know, just kind of like they'll be their own Uber person. So there are a lot of ideas, and she wants to change the delivery. We are looking at kind of revamping the flow, particularly at the high school, to make it more food court-like, which will hopefully appeal to kiddos. But she does understand that she needs to do the promotion on that. I think it does help with that, and I think she does have intentions to do that.
When we get back to bringing kiddos in-house, is the free lunch still going to apply for those that are in school, or is that only for when we're remote learning and they need to go pick something up? So does it apply to all students regardless for the rest of this year?
That applies to all kiddos in our community, because it doesn't necessarily even have to be our students. It's any child in our community. Yes, even when they are on site, all students will be eligible to get a free breakfast and lunch. And right now, as I said, it's through December, but there is a big push to try to get that extended again through the end of the school year. But right now it's through December. And I will also share that when next week when our kiddos come back, they'll still be getting a grab and go bag when they're on site because we are not able to serve additional cafeteria style at this time.
Right. Okay. Nice. Thanks.
I would only add that we've also seen a continued increase even in our delivery and food service this year thus far, where this week we've actually gone over 1,000 meals in a day to be giving out. So as we continue to see an increase, we hope that everything that you just said will continue to be the case, and all of that will continue to increase. So we're hopeful that will be how we move forward there. All right, moving into last area and focus area 5. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time in this area and a lot of forward progress, in my opinion, in this area. So family and community involvement. And Ms. Cordier, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, my favorite part. Focus 5 is, of course, the family and community involvement. There was only one action step in goal 1 that was not completed. It was in progress, and that was where our parents were able to be able to provide hands-on opportunities for our parents to set preferences on the communication method that they received. So currently, back in March, the communication coordinator in IT, they were looking and are still looking at ways to improve the options for parents to be able to choose which way they will be, which method of communication they will use. Goal 2 and goal 3 were both met or exceeded. I would like to say just very briefly that goal 3 was new. That was where we were working to provide not good, but great customer service. We were able to provide that first with our first line of defense, which were our secretaries and administrative assistants. They received 3 professional development modules that were presented, and through all of that, they were able to come up with 5 standards. I am very excited about that because I actually took that under my wing and was able to work with our secretaries to get to the point of not only good customer service, but great customer service for our parents and our stakeholders. I'm very excited about the work that we will be doing this year, and we will start with providing customer service modules for our teachers. That will begin actually next Wednesday, where I will be presenting a customer service module to teachers for both Grandview Middle School and Butcher Green. So we are definitely moving forward. Any questions?
Overall, like I said, I'm extremely proud of the work that we've done in all the areas for our first year. We still do not consider the last few months of the school year to be just kind of written off. We definitely think that there were still a lot of things that were accomplished during that time as well. And we're looking forward to giving you a progress update as well as another full comprehensive update at the end of next year, so we can continue to show you what we've been able to accomplish as a school district and be able to continually make you proud to be board members of this district. So that's all for us, sir.
All right. Any questions, concerns? And if not, I believe this was also informational, which will take us on to policies, first reading.
Yeah, you do have a few policies there. Want to turn that over to Kathy and Ms. Myers. You want to take us through a few things?
We have 4 policies that remain to be issued today, and probably plan for. Or to the motion to adopt one new policy and approve it.
So we do have those few on there for first read, and happy to answer any questions, but we'll just ask for your approval if there's no other questions or discussion.
I'll just follow what Kenny said. If we don't have any questions or concerns, we'll entertain a motion, please.
This is Monica Terry. I move we adopt policy GBAD and approve revisions to policies as listed on first reading as presented.
Dawn Foy, second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the recommendation as presented and stated. If there are no further questions, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Any Blankenship?
Yes.
Chuck Cornforth?
Aye.
Juan Foy?
Aye.
Amy Green?
Aye.
Don Kessinger?
Aye.
Monica Terry?
Aye.
Larry Green?
Aye, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, report of board members and agenda request. Do we have anything? I'm seeing a couple of head nods.
Forth, nothing.
All right. I don't have anything to add, so we'll move on to, oh my goodness, look at that. Adjournment.
Monica Terry, I move we adjourn. You're welcome.
Dawn Foy, second.
It's been properly moved and second that we adjourn. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Blankenship?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Aye.
Amy Green? Green?
Aye.
Don Kessinger?
Aye.
Monica Terry?
Aye.
Larry Green?
Aye, motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.